Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sophie and I would love it if you hit that big red subscribe button down below. I talk about language learning a lot, I make language related study with me videos, I make travel videos when I am actually travelling, which hopefully will be fairly soon in the new year. It's looking like that at the moment, but obviously these days nothing is 100% certain, so yeah, we will have to wait and see. But if you like any of those types of videos, then make sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below. And yeah, in this video oh my god, my voice went then. In this video I'm going to be talking about things that I wish I knew before I started learning languages, because, well, I've been learning languages for a very long time now. I originally first started learning German and French actually at secondary school because I had to when I was like 11 when I would have been 11 when I started secondary school, and then I only continued on with German, and then years later ended up deciding to pick up French again, but I couldn't remember anything, so I had to start as a beginner. Yeah, that was silly of me, wasn't it? But anyway, there's a lot of things that I've learned along the way that I think if I had known sooner, I would have been able to make progress in each of those languages sooner, and maybe would actually be like at a much better level in each of those languages right now. And maybe I would have got better grades in my language exams at school. I'm pretty sure I would have if I'd done all of the things that I do right now to learn languages back then, but back then I didn't know I needed to do all of those things. So yeah, I thought I would share some of these things with you. Or I did make a video like this specifically for French, and I realised that a lot of those things also relate to other languages as well, and there's also some things that I hadn't talked about because that video was like specifically focused on French, but there are some things that can relate to pretty much any language and learning any language that are, you know, good to know. So I thought I would share them all with you. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So one of the first things that I wish I knew about before I started my language learning journey is actually the language learning community here on YouTube, which I guess you already know about because, well, you're watching this video, and I guess technically I am part of that community here on YouTube because I do make a lot of language learning related videos. So yeah, welcome to the language learning community, I guess. Hi. But yeah, I wish that I knew about this before I started learning languages, is because you can find so many like useful resources and so many tips. And back when I first started learning languages at school, I didn't really know what to do outside of class other than the homework, and that's probably why I never really made a big improvement, and that's probably why my understanding was really bad of listening. Like I remember in the listening exams at school and at sixth form college, I would always struggle with those, and it's just because I weren't listening to enough like German outside of class. And if I'd found this community sooner, I would have watched videos and I would have, you know, got all these recommendations of where I could find stuff to listen to in each of my different languages, and I would have known that I need to go and listen to X amount of stuff. Well, it's not as easy as saying listen to X amount of stuff in the language you're trying to learn each day, but I would have known to go out and try and find stuff to really listen to in my own time, and just little things like that. And I would have known more apps to use other than Duolingo, for example, and just, yeah, lots of little things like that. I would have known a bit better about how to use my time wisely, and yeah. But I'm glad that I found this community now because, yeah, there's a lot of good tips on here. So the second thing I wish I knew that I want to share with you all is that fluency is really hard to judge. You're not just going to wake up one day, look in the mirror and be like, oh my god, I'm fluent in German now, or have a conversation with somebody in Spanish and, you know, speak perfect Spanish with perfect pronunciation and not make any grammar mistakes and be like, oh my god, I'm fluent in Spanish now, because there's always going to be stuff you don't know, and there's always going to be times that you make mistakes, and if you're not practicing regularly, your language is always going to get a little rusty every now and then, even if you're like a really good speaker. And you know, there's always going to be certain things to talk about that are easier, so you might have this one conversation with somebody in Spanish and be able to understand everything that the person you are talking to is saying, and you know, speak perfect Spanish yourself, and then go have a conversation with someone else with a different accent, struggle to know what they're saying, talk about something completely different that maybe you don't know so much vocabulary on, and just, you know, make a few mistakes. And yeah, so it's really hard to judge. And I know personally, like, I have this really bad habit of basing my language levels on my grades, which I guess, you know, to some extent maybe you think, oh well, yeah, can't you do that? Can't you base your language level on your grades? Well, for one, like the assessments that we do at university and stuff, they're not like, you know, this is a C1 exam or this is a B2 exam, so yeah, I don't really know what level each of those like exams that I do at uni, like I don't know what level they are, honestly. And also, like, sometimes you're gonna do better in some essays and some exams than others. So the next thing that I want to talk about actually goes along with fluency quite nicely, and that is that no language level placement test is going to be 100% accurate. So if you get a result, a level in one of these tests that you're not quite happy with, try not to get too disappointed about it. And if you get a result that is much better than you expected, don't think, oh, I don't need to work hard on this language anymore because I'm a really good speaker of this language. Because from my experience, just they're not always that accurate. And I guess no test is ever going to be 100% accurate, because it depends on what you get asked on, how difficult the questions are and stuff, and just what you know. Like, for example, say you did a vocabulary test, and say there was 100 words on this list that you needed to know, and you were going to get tested on 10 of them, and say you knew 90 of those words, and you got tested on the 10 that you don't know, it's gonna look like you don't know any vocabulary in that language, right? But actually you do, you just don't know those 10 words, you know, that's just an example. And yeah, I think I've done 4 placement tests over the years, and only one did I ever get tested on writing. None of them I got tested on speaking. So that just shows you like about how bad it is, because it's easier to be able to understand stuff in a new language than it is to be able to produce stuff in that language. It's much easier to, I don't know, read a text in a language and be able to understand what the text is saying than being able to write a text yourself in like perfect language, you know? And I guess, you know, it's just a lot of these tests are often online, so it's just easier to do it like this. Like, I have done a lot that have been multiple choice. For example, these Erasmus tests that we have to do before we do our Erasmus placements, and then after, when we come back, we like do it before to get so they can have an idea of our level, and then they can see our level when we come back from study abroad to see if we've improved. I literally just did one for French because I should hopefully be going to France in January, so long as stuff doesn't change. I had to do this like test, and it was all multiple choice, and there were questions where I didn't know exactly what the answer was, but I knew what was like, I knew what answers weren't correct, which ones were false. So then, yeah, I got them right, I guess. I don't know, like I didn't see a breakdown of like which answers I got right at the end. I just saw a breakdown because it was like vocabulary, listening, reading, and grammar. I saw a breakdown of what I got overall, and like on grammar I got like B2, and But I know that was just because of the multiple choice. Like, I know without the multiple choice I would have got lower, if that makes sense. And overall I got a level in French that I know, I just know I don't have that level. If you watch my most recent video, I was speaking French and I was pausing a lot, and just, yeah, I just can't speak perfect French. I know that my level is more like B1, and I didn't get level B1, you know. I was just, maybe I'm just good at multiple choice questions, you know. I know if it was something completely different, I wouldn't have done so good. So yeah, language level tests aren't going to be 100% accurate. I'm not going to go and tell people. I'm not even telling you or what level I got, because I don't want people thinking that my French is that level, and expecting to hear really good French from me when I speak, when it's just not going to happen. So yeah, if people ask me my level in French, I'm just going to say I think it's B1 for the time being. That's what I'm going to say. I think it's B1, I'm not sure, because then, you know, maybe people will be pleasantly surprised if it's not B1, and then if I say what level I did actually get in the test, which I know it's not, people are going to be like, well, how did you get that level? You don't speak French like that, your French ain't that good, you know? And another thing that I wish I knew about before I started learning languages is not to forget to focus on nailing that pronunciation at the very beginning. I feel like when I learn a new language, I just want to learn words right away, and how to form sentences, so I can start coming up with my own sentences and not having to rely on just like textbook phrases, you know. I just want to learn loads of words, and I want to learn loads of different grammatical structures so I can start forming my own sentences. But I don't really focus on actually saying those sentences correctly. I'm just like, I've got all these words, I know how to write them, I can recognise them in a text, but I can't necessarily always say them correctly, which means sometimes people won't understand me, or they'll understand me, but it'll just be like, oh, she's a bit weird. I don't know, like, for example, you could end up like me, like somebody who is considered to have quite a high level in German, and literally it's recently been pointed out to me by a lecturer that I was pronouncing, like, making silly pronunciation mistakes in German that I shouldn't have been making for my level. Like, I was saying ich instead of ish, and apparently that is actually like a dialect or something, so maybe that's, you know, I've picked up that pronunciation off of somebody who spoke a specific dialect of German. But in Hochdeutsch, no, they say ish, and I was saying sprechen instead of sprechen. And also it's just really, really important, because sometimes in languages there'll just be maybe a letter that's different, or there'll be a different accent or an umlaut or something that's different from one word to another word, which just makes a slight pronunciation change. And if you say the wrong one, then it sounds like you're saying the wrong word. For example, Tochter and Tochter. Tochter is daughter, Tochter is daughters. So, you know, if you make that slight mistake, if you pronounce one wrong, then they won't realise you're using the plural form. Or a good example is año. Año in Spanish means year, but I've heard that if you take off that little ñ and just put a normal n and say anno, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, as I never said this word because I've never had any need to, but apparently it actually means arse, and that's like one of the first things that I was told in Spanish. No, make sure you say año, because otherwise someone's going to think you're saying arse, and you don't want to say arse. So, am I going to get demonetized now for saying that word? I don't know. I have to worry about these things now. I actually get monetized now, so I have to worry about these things. The next thing that I wish I knew is that it's okay if you don't follow a strict learning plan every day. This is something that I really needed to know during like the first lockdown. During the first lockdown, when my semester abroad in Germany got cancelled and I was just given like 3 assignments to do instead, I got very worried because I was missing a whole semester of like language learning, that, you know, my language skills, you know, they were gonna get worse and they weren't gonna improve, and that in my final year of uni, you know, I wouldn't do very well because of that. And who knows, maybe that's the case. Maybe in my final year of uni, because it's still next year, maybe, and I mean next school year, so September, yeah, maybe I won't do very well, who knows. But I got very worried about that, so I started like trying to create a strict plan for myself, and I actually just made my mental health really bad because I was just putting too much pressure on myself. I was forcing myself to go onto this Tandem app, which I actually made a review on. I was forcing myself to go onto that every day and was like trying to find people to talk to, and it was just like, yeah, I was like waking up, doing a bunch of things to learn languages that I'd set out for myself. Then in the evening I'll be on that Tandem app talking to people. I literally would just like never do anything in English. It was just bam, bam, bam. And for one, you're like, your brain, you know, you need time to process stuff. You need time to take breaks and process what you've learned, so you can't just be learning all of this stuff. Also, like I said there, it was bad for my mental health. Sometimes I just needed breaks. I just really ended up just being like, yeah, stressed constantly and depressed, and just wasn't good. It made language learning a chore, and yeah, and it was very stressful. I was spending more time talking to random strangers on some Tandem app than talking to my friends on Skype or whatever, like I should have been. And yeah, you're not always gonna, and just in general, you're not always gonna stick to plans, because sometimes things are gonna come up and plans are gonna change. You're not always gonna stick to an exact plan. It's good to have a plan, have an idea, but don't get like really annoyed with yourself if you don't end up finishing the plan. You're not always gonna have the mental energy to do so. Some plans, maybe sometimes you realise actually, you know, you're putting too much pressure on yourself, like I was in the first lockdown. Yeah, just don't do that. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this video here. I did actually have a few more points that I did want to talk about in this video, but I actually spent more time talking about each of the points that I have already spoken about in this video than I thought I would have, and therefore if I then go on and talk about the other points that I've mentioned, this video would just be way longer than I had expected, and I know that no one wants to sit through a really long, like 30-minute video or whatever, so I'm just going to end this here. Give this video a big thumbs up and to let me know that you enjoyed it. Hit that big red subscribe button down below to see more videos from me. Follow me on Instagram and all that lovely stuff. I don't know why I call it lovely stuff all the time, but it's just become kind of a habit now. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!